Stay back, I'll do it!
Listen to me, Sam. Put it down. We can end this right now.
Step back! Don't come any closer. Maya's voice barely carried over the chaos. 5 gunshots had shattered the hospital's quiet, echoing through the hallways like thunder. Faces froze, monitors beeped frantically, and a life hung in the balance. The man in power, the CEO, had turned fear into a weapon, and she was the target. But every move, every strike was captured. Cameras had witnessed the unthinkable. This wasn't just an attack. It was a moment that would expose a system built on control and prejudice. Hospital CEO shoots black nurse 5 times. The shocking truth emerges. Welcome, story lovers. Where are you watching from? Hit the like button and drop your city name in the comments so we can see how far our story travels. It began like any other early morning shift, the kind where the world outside still slept. But inside the hospital, life and death moved in quiet rhythm. Maya Thompson, a 26-year-old black nurse, walked through the glass doors with the same calm focus she carried every day. To her patients, she was the one steady voice in the chaos. To her colleagues, she was the nurse who never cracked, who showed up early, stayed late, and brought a soft warmth even to the coldest rooms. She didn't come from privilege. She fought her way through nursing school while juggling 2 part-time jobs, caring for her younger brother and never once complaining. Everyone admired her resilience, everyone except the man who signed her paycheck. The hospital's CEO, Richard Halden, saw her differently. To him, Maya wasn't just a nurse. She was a disruption. The only black nurse on her floor, the one patients kept requesting by name, the one whose performance reviews shone so brightly they cast long shadows. He didn't like shadows, not ones he couldn't control. Still, Maya ignored the whispers about him. She focused on her work, her patients, and the quiet pride she carried in her chest every time she helped save a life. That morning, she was assigned to an emergency surgery recovery, a case most nurses avoided due to the complexity. But Maya stepped in without hesitation. Another life to protect, another chance to prove herself. The hospital hallways buzzed with routine noise, beeping monitors, rolling gurneys, murmured charts. Nothing seemed out of place. Yet beneath that familiar rhythm, something else pulsed. Tension, a kind she couldn't quite name. Staff exchanged glances. Some avoided eye contact altogether. Even the air felt different, heavy, as if bracing for something unseen. Maya pushed the feeling aside. She had a patient to stabilize, a life that depended on her steady hands. What she didn't know, what no one knew yet, was that this ordinary shift was seconds away from shattering. Her courage would soon be twisted into defiance. Her success would quickly be weaponized. And the man who feared her light would make a choice that would change everything. The surgery had been long, more grueling than most, but Maya's hands were steady, her focus unwavering. She guided the patient through the critical post-operative period, monitoring every monitor, every subtle change in breathing or pulse. By the time she stepped back to review the charts, the patient's life was no longer hanging by a thread. It was secure. She allowed herself a slight, quiet relief, the kind only nurses ever truly understand. But relief didn't last long. From across the room, Maya noticed Richard Halden's eyes on her. Cold, calculating, sharp. He didn't move, didn't speak, but the look was unmistakable. It was the look of a man whose pride had been pierced, whose control was threatened. Every step she had taken to save the patient, every command she had executed flawlessly, seemed to inflame him. The whispers had been right. He saw her brilliance as a threat. And then the subtle signs began. Requests for reports that weren't due, questions about procedures she hadn't changed, accusations disguised as concerns about her methods. At first, she tried to ignore them, chalking it up to office politics. But it escalated. Halden began scrutinizing her work, interfering where he had no right, even questioning the nurse's notes she had meticulously logged. Her colleagues noticed, some silently supportive, others too fearful to intervene. The tension in the air became tangible, like static before a storm. One afternoon, a patient collapsed unexpectedly. Maya acted instantly, saving their life again. She wiped sweat from her brow, hearing the relieved murmurs from the family. But in the corner of the room, Halden's expression twisted. Not relief, not gratitude, but fury. To him, this wasn't heroism, it was defiance. She had stolen his attention, outshone him, reminded everyone that competence and courage couldn't be commanded by a title alone. Rumors began circulating, subtle but insidious. Some staff claimed Maya was difficult or ambitious in the wrong way. She could feel the eyes, the judgment, the quiet fear. Every step she took, every decision she made, seemed under a microscope designed to catch her in a misstep that didn't exist. Her sleepless nights multiplied. The hospital, once a place of purpose, had become a cage, and then the threats began. Not overt, not yet, but lingering. A door left slightly ajar, an unmarked envelope on her desk, a phone call that ended with silence. The whispers of danger echoed through the sterile corridors. Maya knew the warnings weren't a coincidence. They were prelude. Yet she refused to leave. She wouldn't back down. Not when lives depended on her. By the time the evening shift arrived, the tension had become unbearable. Halden's eyes followed her across the hallways, and staff avoided the spaces she passed, as if sensing the storm gathering. Something was coming. Something unimaginable. And no one, not even Maya, could predict just how far fear and power would go to try to silence her. The air thickened with dread. The cameras captured every motion, every glance, every unspoken threat. The stage was set, and the moment of truth was only seconds away. The fluorescent lights of the hospital hallway flickered as Maya adjusted the patient charts in her hands. She felt the weight of Halden's gaze before she saw him move, his steps deliberate, heavy, filled with intent. In that instant, every instinct screamed danger, but disbelief anchored her in place. She had faced emergencies, aggressive patients, even life-or-death surgeries, but never this. Never a storm born of fear and hatred targeting her simply for being who she was. Then the sound split the air. Gunshots. 5 deafening echoes ricocheted off the sterile walls. Panic surged like fire through the corridor. Staff froze, some screaming, some ducking, their hands instinctively shielding others. Maya felt the first strike tear past her shoulder, then another. Pain exploded, searing through her body, but her mind was alert, heart pounding, adrenaline sharp enough to carve through agony. She stumbled, barely holding on to consciousness. Yet even as she fell, something extraordinary happened. The hospital's surveillance cameras had captured it all. Every frame, every recoil, every scream. Halden's fury was recorded, undeniable. And in that instant, the power he wielded, the empire he had built, felt fragile, exposed to the world outside. Maya's vision blurred, but clarity emerged. Her fight wasn't just for survival. It was proof. Proof that courage and truth could not be silenced, even in the face of unthinkable hatred. Dear audience, where are you watching from? Drop your city name in the comments. By morning, the world knew. The video footage had leaked, spreading across social media, news outlets, and every corner of the internet. Richard Halden's office, once a symbol of untouchable power, was now empty, his authority shattered. The hospital staff whispered in awe and disbelief, some crying quietly, others shaking with anger. Maya Thompson survived, barely, but her courage had become larger than the hospital walls, larger than the bullets meant to silence her. Investigations moved swiftly. Public outrage ignited. People demanded accountability not just for one act of violence, but for the systemic fear, discrimination, and intimidation that had built up over the years. Halden, once feared, now faced the consequences of his hatred. For Maya, recovery was painful, physical scars mirrored by emotional wounds. Still, every day she gained strength, she realized the truth. Her life, her bravery, her voice had sparked a movement. This wasn't only about one nurse or one hospital. It was about countless others whose talent, ambition, and courage were threatened by prejudice and power. Maya's survival sent a message. Injustice, no matter how well hidden, eventually meets light. And even in fear's darkest hour, courage can ignite change. How many more times must we witness brilliance punished for skin color, only to see it rise even stronger? Maya's story reminds us, silence is never the answer. Speaking up, surviving, and demanding justice matter. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to our channel for more powerful stories. Share this story and reflect. Whose courage will inspire change next?